This is the BodPod, the podcast where we welcome friends and experts to talk all things body image, self-love, and confidence. This is the BodPod.
Hey BodPod squad, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Rachel K. Grimm, your resident hype girl, and today we have a solo episode talking about a hot, trendy word, boundaries. I giggle because that's probably not the hot, trendy word you were hoping to talk about, because that feels like a very serious one. But I promise this is a word that if we have a heavy-hitting conversation on, it will not only change your relationship with yourself and others, but boost your confidence to set and maintain boundaries and ultimately live your best life. So let's hop right into it. Every year, it seems that there are these words that go from really trendy to massively overused overnight, and boundaries seems to be one of them. In 2024, we saw words like delulu, demure, and what's funny about these words is the overuse almost takes away from their value, the meaning of them, right? In a way, it's good that boundaries has ended up on the list, because that means that we're more open to talking about mental health and setting and maintaining boundaries. But listen, with access to everything and everyone at the touch of our fingertips, it's really, really hard to have boundaries. My point to this is that the overuse of the word is almost representative that boundaries have become a joke. So the question I want to answer today is, what if we treated boundaries in the way that they were originally meant to be treated? What if we were confident enough not only to set boundaries, but also respect the boundaries that others ask of us and those that we ask of ourselves? Something tells me that following through with boundaries in this way would literally allow us to live a more empowered life and the life we've always dreamed. Okay, but before we go too far, I want to tell you a little story about boundaries. Over 2 years ago, I was entering my 30s and I was so excited, a little bit scared, and I knew that my 30s were just going to be the best decade that I've had yet in my life. And it really started out in the best way because my best friend who lives in Barcelona surprised me, flew to New York, and arrived at my house the night before my big 30th birthday party. And in true bestie fashion, we cried. And we cried because of boundaries. Hear me out. Literally, we got into having one of those bestie conversations where we're sitting on opposite ends of the couch, snuggled up in our blankets with a glass of wine in hand, talking. And I expressed to her that there were relationships, that there were goals and things I really, really saw myself achieving in my ideal version of my life in my 30s. And I was afraid that there were some relationships that were in my life that were really taking away from the potential to achieve those goals. And it wasn't because these were bad people or these were people that I wanted to have involved in my life. These were habits that I didn't want to break, but I recognized that they were people and habits that were taking an amount of my energy that I could use in a different way and focus in on the life that I wanted in my 30s. So during this hard conversation, I made the promise to myself and my best friend that I was going to have some difficult conversations. I was going to set some boundaries and I was going to maintain them and see how they would change my life. And so I did. I had some really difficult conversations, and some of those led to some distance. Some of those led to never speaking again. And some of those were really welcomed with an understanding that I wanted to make a big change in my life. And I'll be honest, those that didn't want to speak to me, the urge I had for weeks, even months, to still pick up the phone, send the text, or make the call. But I knew that I had set a boundary for myself and that I would be so much more proud of myself if I maintained it, as opposed to backpedaled and just entered back into the same habits that I had had before. And slowly but surely, as I maintained those boundaries, I saw my life get better and better. And again, it's not because these were bad people, but it was because I suddenly had more energy to give myself. And I'll be honest, the first full year of my 30s is one of my favorite years I've ever lived. And to be honest, I'm pretty confident that some of those people that I set boundaries with have also lived some of their best lives too, since having these hard conversations. And I'm not gonna lie, my eternal optimism likes to think that it's because I set the standard, but really I think that they got back a level of energy too. Listen, maybe you have people you need to set boundaries with too, or maybe it has nothing to do with a person. Maybe it's a habit. Maybe it's how much time you spend on your phone every day. And listen, I get it, it's difficult. It's so easy to scroll right away when you wake up, or when you need to fill an awkward silence, or really just to disassociate for a sec. But if you're ready to set a boundary with a habit or a person, I want to tell you a piece of advice that was given to me that I think you need in your life. And it's don't backslide into old habits just because they're comfortable. Because you will want to. You will want to pick up your phone and scroll, even though you set yourself a goal and a boundary that you're not going to do that anymore right away when you wake up. And you will want to pick up the phone and send that text, even though you know that's not a relationship that is really giving back to you. But every time you feel that pull to do the opposite of the boundary you've set, I want you to think about the version of yourself that follows through with just letting it happen and the version of you that maintains the boundary. My guess is the version of you that maintains the boundary is the ideal version of you, the person that you really, really want to be, or you wouldn't have set that boundary in the first place. When you lean into that boundary, slowly but surely, you too will start to see your life change. You will take back your time, your energy, and really be living the life you want to live. And like I said, boundaries are really uncomfortable to set. I get it. I used to feel so icky, grossed out by the word boundaries, the concept of setting boundaries. But let me remind you, it's not bad or mean. And it doesn't always mean you have to completely cut something or someone out. In fact, I want to give you an example of setting a boundary that shows the complete opposite of cutting someone out. And that is a boundary that my partner set with me. I work alone from home and I have thoughts going on in my mind all day, and I'm so excited to share them with my partner when he gets home. And I assume he wants to do the same too, right? But he works with people all day, is in conversation all day. So until he set this boundary with me, I would just chatter at him the second he walked in the door from work. I was literally that episode from How I Met Your Mother where Lily and Marshall are like, how's your day? What did you eat? What was the conversation with this person? How long did it take you to get home? I was just so excited to share my life and hear about his. But what I didn't realize is this was not good for him at all until he decided to set a boundary with me. He said, hey, Rachel, from now on, when I get home from work, can you give me 10 minutes? Just 10 minutes where I'm alone.